Hello, and welcome to the Gonzales Mitchell Show. I'm Clay Mitchell.
And I'm Patrick Gonzales.
And today, Patrick and I have a special guest. It's Kent County Commissioner, President of the Kent County Commissioners of Kent County, Ronnie Fithian. Ronnie, thank you for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
Now, the legislative session is going to come into session, 45, 60 days, somewhere in there, beginning in January. And I know a lot of local municipalities and counties are concerned with the blueprint for Maryland, and especially here on the shore with the lower counties where I would say disproportionately impacted by it. What is the current status of the blueprint as far as Kent County is concerned right now?
Well, that's something that we've been screaming about since the first day we heard about it, because it does affect us in a large way. Now, I will say that the first couple years into it, we've made out okay, because I think they're really concentrating, and I think what give us a break for the first couple years is the fact that they're working on pre-K and kindergarten and bringing that in. Well, we've been doing that for 11 or 12 years. So we were already doing that. So we kind of got a pass. This supposedly now, unless things change, this coming year, we won't be hit real hard. But every year after that, for 7 or 8 years, it's like $1.5 million a year that we have to come up with. Now, $1.5 million to a lot of counties doesn't seem like a lot of money, but to a county with 19,500 people in it, that's a lot of money. I mean, I've been here 26 years, and a lot of years we might see $500,000 to $1 million in new money, and that's for the entire county. So for us to come up with $1.5 million just for education, the first day I heard about it, I used the words undoable, and I still think that that's undoable. Let me give you an example, and it's not only the blueprint that affects us, but there's also something called the wealth formula that determines the wealth of a county, and we are considered a wealthy county. Now, what does that mean? That controls the amount of state money versus county resident money that we have to put up. If we were to go to build a new middle school, which we desperately need because ours is 70 some years old,
Right.
And a lot of people would like to have it. And I got kids in the school system, or grandkids, excuse me, and I'd love to see them in a nice school as well. If we go to buy, because of the wealth formula, and we're considered a wealthy county, even though 87% of Kent County's land mass is zoned agriculture, which the state controls the tax rate on that, and they get a break, rightfully so, because they have to generate a lot of land in order to do the farming operation. I understand all that.
Right.
But that it's hard for me to believe when we're maybe in 20th place out of 23 as far as average yearly income. Some places on the Western Shore, their average yearly income, $100,000+ a year. We're down in the low 60s, something like that. But what's that mean? If we go to build a school, and it's not unusual for it to cost $80 million. That's a price tag that's been floated around. That means 19,000. We have to pay 50% of that. The county taxpayers. That's 19,500 people are going to be saddled with a $40 to $45 million debt. Some counties would get that for free. There's 2 counties, and I'll leave them nameless, but there's 2 counties that I could mention that the state would build their school and it wouldn't cost their taxpayers a dime.
Wow.
Baltimore City, maybe they pay 4 or 5%. Other counties, 4%, 6%, 8%. Kent County, because we're considered a wealthy county, we pay 50%. And that's why our
unbelievable.
school is 70 some years old, because I know we can't afford that. Not on top of the blueprint. Even when you hear people talk about air maintenance of effort, say we're third from the top. We spend about $19,000 per pupil per year.
Mhm.
When you're a wealthy county, the lion's share of that $18,000 or $19,000 per pupil comes from our taxpayers, our local taxpayers, and a smaller proportion comes from the state. And a lot of your other counties that are considered poorer than us, their lion's share of their maintenance of effort comes from the state. So, and listen, we have talked about that to everybody that would listen to us, about how unfair we think that maintenance of, or that wealth formula is to Kent County. And no matter who you talk to, whether it's the State Board of Education, some years ago, we went and talked to them in Baltimore, whether it's the Senate President, Speaker of the House, you name it, we've talked to them. They all tell us the same thing. We'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about, but we're not going to talk about the wealth formula. So if we can't talk about it, it gives us a very poor chance of making our case. So that blueprint is going to hit us hard. And but now, in all fairness, I've heard some rumblings that things may change in this coming legislative session, and I hope that's true. So we're gonna hold tight and see what comes of it. But as it is now, it will affect us in a very negative way.
How in the heck did we end up being one of the wealthiest counties under that formula?
Well, that's a question we've asked everybody we can ask. And like I said, the answer is always, I guess they're afraid to make a change with us because it would throw a lot of other, I don't know what the answer is, but I know.
Ronnie, what is it predicated on? Upon what is it based?
Everything that you can talk about as far as the wealth of a county, like I said, whether it's the average yearly income, if it's gross daily GDP, we rank real low until you throw the number of students into it, and we don't have a lot of students. We've got our population is declining year after year after year, and it's been doing it for 25 or 30 years. The fact that we have few students, somehow, I don't know why it should. I don't know the answer. Nobody would ever talk to us about it, but I don't know the answer to how that happened. But
you are the president of the Kent County Commissioners, and the state will not explain to you how exactly Kent County is one of the wealthy counties? That makes no sense.
I totally agree with that. I mean, we've just as recent as last session, we were in Annapolis trying to get that 50% of our contribution to a new capital project like a school. We tried to get that 50% down to something realistic, like 6 or 8%, like a lot of the other counties. And that was shot down. Now we're trying it again this year, and some people think that we might have a better chance this year. I don't know, but we're certainly going to try. Our senator and the 3 delegates from the 36th district are going to work on it. So we'll see how it goes. But at us having to pay 50% of an 80 some million dollar school, it's probably not going to happen. We would have to look. I don't know what we would do, but
Right.
We've been in and around Kent County for 62 years, and I never knew we were as rich as Montgomery County.
well, I don't think we are either. And I don't know how you could possibly be when 87% of your land mass is zoned agriculture. And we
Correct.
wanted that. And we look, in one hand, I've been to Annapolis to receive accolades and a trophy for being an agricultural center, for having such a great agricultural community. But then on the other hand, they want to consider us as a wealthy county, and it really kills us. Our school, we have one consolidated high school, which the day that it opened, there was 1,350 students in that high school. Today, it's around 550 or somewhere close to 550. That's how the population has decreased. We've closed down some elementary schools in the last few years. We have 5 schools in the entire county, a high school, a middle school, and 3 elementary schools. So this blueprint is going to, this on top of us being a wealthy county, it makes it almost, as I said in a debate one time, it's just undoable.
When you talk about population decline, obviously I've noticed that going on. When I was in high school, again, there was about 1,300 students in the school, but that was a million years ago. I see Middletown, Delaware, and the Delaware counties siphoning off a lot of commerce from the counties that border Delaware, which includes Kent County. For the life of me, we've gone up to a 6% sales tax. They're talking about maybe sales tax increases for infrastructure and roads and a variety of other things. If they were to raise it to 7%, I always argued, you guys aren't listening to anybody on the Eastern Shore where we are fettered to another state that has 0 sales tax.
Oh, sure.
And people, oh, why would you drive out of your way to save a couple dollars? It's not just a couple dollars. You talk about equipment and materials and those types of things. If you live in, especially the northern part of Kent County, that's a 20-minute drive to Middletown. It's equidistant to go from there to Chestertown.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that needs to be addressed or looked at in the legislature also, because that has really damaged Kent County. The taxation and the regulations that are thrust upon us, where, you look at Middletown, it looks like they don't have no zoning laws at all. They're just booming.
Oh, no question.
What do you think could be done if you could wave a magic wand? What could be done in Kent County to help increase population and therefore tax revenues?
Well, one thing with the population, I remember when I went to school, when that was a million years ago, Clay, when I went, but on my school bus route, I tell people all the time, there was probably a half a dozen families on my 3/4 of a mile school bus route that had 5, 6, 7 kids in a family. You don't see that anymore.
Right.
Job opportunities are not the greatest in Kent County, but we are working on some things to hopefully change that. There's going to be some development out on the 301 corridor as you go into Millington. We've got a couple distribution centers that are going to maybe provide 200 or 300 jobs between them, and a housing component right there at the overpass going into Millington, which ought to really create some economic growth.
Right.
But Kent County is what Kent County is, and we can add that. We in one hand, we want to save our agricultural community. It is a large part of our county, and we're proud of that. But that's why we're putting all this growth out on the 301 corridor to try to siphon off some of that from. We don't want all of it, but enough to some slow growth and make, kind of entice people, maybe some young people, to start living in Kent County.
Right. I've noticed over the years, Rock Hall has done a phenomenal job The town looks great. They have the festivals, they have the 4th of July, the fireworks and all that. But I hate to say it, I go into Chestertown and it's dead.
They're having
Um, You
trouble.
you go in there on the 4th of July, you never know it was the 4th of July. And I remember when they had the Downtown Merchants Association and they had crazy days, and it was just this big thing. And for some reason, that has gone away.
Yeah.
And I can't put my finger on it. But I think if you were to develop that 301 corridor and have some more jobs and have some more housing, maybe that would absorb into the rest of the county and be a good thing.
Well, we certainly hope so. And we've seen there's some developers that are chafing at the bit to get started, and we're in the process of designing a new wastewater treatment facility in the Millington area. The one that they have up there now, not only is it outdated, but it's been underwater twice in my lifetime during hurricanes. It's in a flood zone. Whoever put it there, I'm not sure, but we want to close that down and build a new one because we've really got some anticipated growth. I think in the next 5 years, you'll see a big difference in that area.
That's great. Patrick, you ever been to Rock Hall and gone to any of the fine restaurants we have down there?
I have. It's been a while, and I guess my main question for Ronnie is, as a lifelong resident of Rock Hall, and you touched on it a little, but on a personal level, what kind of jumps out to you the most specifically about Rock Hall over the last 50 years and
Well,
just the county generally?
when
On a
I
personal level.
when I got out of high school in 1969, and we had a high school right in Rock Hall at that time, before we consolidated it, and the entire town revolved around the seafood business. When I got out of high school in 1969, I couldn't wait to go to work on the water. That's what I was cut out to do. That's what I was going to do, and I couldn't wait. When I graduated, I went right to work in the oyster industry. And there was 127 boats went out of Rock Hall Harbor every morning to go to work out on what we called Swan Point, and we were catching 50 to 100 bushel to the boat. It was wide open. It was great. Today, there's none. If there are a few still oystering, but they have to travel to maybe Tillman's Island south. They still have an industry down there, but ours is and I think it was 1973 when we had Hurricane Agnes, and a lot of us that were in the business at the time knew that was the beginning of the end. And unfortunately,
I remember when that storm went through. We were near the Sassafras River, and within a week after that storm, all of the clam shells were on the beach.
Yeah.
And they were there for years, eventually crushed up. But like you, I remember seeing seaweed. You could throw your fishing line out in the water, you could catch the fish and watch it, and that's gone.
When we during that hurricane, they lost all the grass in the bay, or 90% of it anyhow. And in my opinion, and I spent 30 years watching it and fooling with it and working in it. That's the nucleus of the ecosystem, in my opinion. That grass, as thick as it was back then, you didn't even need buoys to show you where the channels were, because the grass would grow right to the top in 6 foot of water, and you knew if you stayed in the clear areas that you were in the channels. You didn't need day markers and things, but it's all gone now. And I mean, the grass does so many different things. It suppresses wave action. It cuts down on erosion. It gives crabs and fish and stuff a place to hide from the predators. It just goes on and on. It's probably the most important part of Chesapeake Bay's ecosystem.
How did just real quick, how did the hurricane destroy the grass, Ronnie?
Well, we got an enormous amount of rainfall on the Susquehanna River in that up all the way up the Susquehanna River. And they even, there was a time when they weren't sure that the Conowingo Dam was going to handle it all. I mean, they had every gate open, every turbine running, and they actually had explosives set because they thought they were going to have to blow a piece of that dam apart to keep from losing the whole works, because it was so much water coming down that Susquehanna River that they couldn't release it fast enough. And they were actually worried that that they might lose the whole thing. But they did.
That's one of the things I want to have you back on and talk about. I know you're involved with the Susquehanna River and the opening of the dam, the continuous flow of materials and all kinds of garbage that comes down that into the bay. Almost 2-3 times a year, they're opening up that dam,
and it's becoming more off. It's happening more all the time, and sometimes it happens. This past year, it happened right about the same time that the rockfish are up there spawning, and they can't spawn in that, and it spawns. But so we just saw what happened last year. The Atlantic States Marine Fishery reduced the catch of the charter boat fishery from 2 fish, which was bad enough per person, to 1 fish. And if you talk to the people in the charter boat business, it probably cost them half or more of their parties. So people are just not coming to catch 1 fish and pay the money they pay to go out on that boat.
Right. I want to have you back on to talk about all of that.
I think back to Patrick's question about Rock Hall. That's the biggest change, is that I've seen the seafood business go away. And thankfully, the marina business, at about the time we were losing the commercial seafood business, the recreational boating industry through the marinas took off. And that's what's helped to keep Kent County on the map. If Patrick hasn't been there to eat in a restaurant, I mean, we have some of the finest now, and some of them have just come in the last 2 or 3 years. But
yes,
we're known for our restaurants now. And the reason that in the summertime, our population will double or triple in the summer, because we have, when I was town manager, we had 1,300, the last census was, we had 1,350 people living in Rock Hall. We have 1,500 boat slips. Yeah. Every one of those boat slips becomes a second home in the summertime, and our population will double or triple. And that's what's really kept Kent County in the running.
Well, I'm coming over for dinner soon.
Well, you do it.
Patrick, I got to get you there. We'll get Ronnie, and we'll go to the restaurants there. There's the new one, the Lemon Leaf Diner. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we got to go there, Patrick. We'll grab Ronnie and his wife, and
there's a whole host of good ones there. We probably got 6 or 8 fine restaurants in Rock Hall right now. Yep.
Well, Ronnie, we appreciate you being on today. We want to have you back on. I do want to talk about Chesapeake Bay, Susquehanna River issues with you, because I know that that's near and dear to your heart.
Very much so.
But by looking at the clock on the wall, it's the end of our show, and we have to say goodbye, Patrick.
Goodbye, Patrick.
Goodbye, Patrick.
Goodbye, Patrick. And Ronnie, we appreciate having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Ronnie.
for having me. My pleasure. Enjoyed it.